The gross domestic product or GDP calculation is really important as it measures of national income and output for a given country's economy. Technically, the gross domestic product or so-called GDP is equal to the total expenditures for all final goods and services produced within the country in a stipulated period of time. The Central Statistic Agency just announced Indonesia's economic growth throughout 2019. Let's see the next data. This is Indonesia's 2019 GDP compared to 2018 realization, which was reached 5.17%, and in 2019 budget draft, it was predicted at that time the growth of GDP in Indonesia predicted to reach 5.3%, but in the full year realization of Indonesia's GDP only can reach 5.02%. This one is taken from Central Bureau of Statistics data. In addition, BPS head Suharyanto stated that based on the structure of gross domestic product from expenditures side, economic growth was still supported by household consumption and gross fixed capital formation. However, this economic slowdown, according to some analysts, was caused more by global pressure, starting from the US-China trade war, which caused global trade to slow down as reflected by slowing net export. In details, Indonesia's GDP result in the final quarter of 2019 doesn't really satisfy most of people. It was slightly different as what government wished to be before. To know about economic growth in fourth quarter of last year and comparison with other years, let's see the next data. This is Indonesia's GDP in fourth quarter. In 2019, only grew 4.9%. The realization of GDP growth in fourth quarter in 2018 reached 5.18%. In 2017, 5.19%. And fourth quarter of 2019 was lower than the previous quarter, which recorded 5.02%. Head of BPS Suharyanto delivered statement that several things determine economic growth in the fourth quarter of 2019, including the global economy is still weak and unstable due to the weak global trade and investment. But on the other hand, oil and gas and non-oil commodity prices on the international market in the fourth quarter of 2019 went up both quarterly and year-on-year. Hence, the economic growth relating to Indonesia's trading partners is still positive despite slowing down compared to the same period in 2018. Even though the economic growth was slow, it was quite the opposite when talk about GDP per capita. And to get know more about last year's GDP per capita, let's check the next graphic. In 2018 yearly GDP per capita, it was reached 56, and in 2019 increased to 59.1, and when it comes to the daily expenditure of the people per capita in 2018 reached 153,424 rupiah. But in 2019, it was increased to 161,917 rupiah. And GDP per capita was the silver lining above the slowing down economy. In addition, household consumption is still the main driver of Indonesia's GDP per capita in 2019. Unfortunately, household consumption was only able to grow 4.97%, slowed down from the same period in 2018, which amounted to 5.08%. Seeing the downtrend, Suharyanto says that the government needs to be aware of the weakening of household consumption. It is questionable for sure. Is this a decrease in people's purchasing power or no? This needs to be watched out. When it turns out to regionally, Indonesia's economy throughout 2019 is no doubt still dominated by Java Island. And to see the comparison with other regions which are also main contributor in 2019, let's see the next data. This is regions with most contribution to 2019 GDP of Indonesia. Java, of course, with the total contribution to the national GDP as much as 59%, Sumatra 21.32%, and Kalimantan as much as 8.05%. A remarkable characteristic of Indonesia is that the western part of the country has a significantly larger contribution share towards the nation's GDP growth. Java, especially the greater Jakarta area and Sumatra together, contribute more than 70% to Indonesia's total GDP. As we see through the data, Central Statistic Agency said that Java Island still dominated the country's economic structure, as evident in the national economic growth in the fourth quarter. He said that Java Island contributed the most to the national gross domestic product, with 59%, with a growth rate of 5.52% during 2019. And contradictorily, in the regions of Maluku and Papua, economic growth grew negatively for both regions by more than 7% in average. And moving up to sectoral, there are some sectors that contribute most than other sectors in 2019 national GDP. What are those? Let's see the next data. This is Indonesia's 2019 sectoral performance. Processing industry grew by 3.8%, trade grew by 4.62%, agriculture grew by 3.64%, construction 5.76%, and mining 1.22%. In addition, exports and imports also continue to experience a contraction of 6.55% and 11.88% respectively. So, Central Bureau of Statistics reminded the government to be able to anticipate worst scenario. However, it is hoped that the Indonesian economy will improve in 2020. Stay with us because Market Headlines will be right back after this quick break.